The investment migration industry has experienced extraordinary growth. What's next, and how do you see digital technologies playing a role? And also, how do you foresee blockchain as impacting on the investment migration space, specifically with regard to due diligence and background checks?
Thank you very much. Let me explain first the investor migration industry. I've just met an interesting gentleman before, and he had no clue about investor migration. So what we do is we help wealthy people to find the right place to live or the right citizenship to obtain. So we sit them together. Usually these are successful entrepreneurs around the world. We have 40 offices around the globe. And we're sitting with them together. They don't know where they want to move to, but they know that they want to change their current lifestyle. And then we advise them what options they have on the residence or on the citizenship side. And next to this, we are also consulting governments. So for governments around the world, we are implementing such residence or citizenship by investment programs. And we are implementing them. And then as a next phase, we are also making marketing for the countries around the globe and bringing them the wealthy individuals who invest in the countries. This is our model, and let's talk now about the digital revolution or how the digital phase can help us in the industry. So the industry, how it looks today, is very fragmentized. We have one global leader, Henley & Partners, and we have a lot of very small companies. And when you look at the application process, then, of course, all the governments, they have application forms where you have to fill in your details, your source of wealth, your total wealth, total income with all the proofs. And we have more than 100 staff at Henley & Partners who help the clients to just fill out more or less by hand these application forms. And then these application packages with all the evidence go to the government, and the government officials, they on their side do the same. They type in all the application forms in their system. And so from that perspective, you see, of course, that there is a need to do this on a digital way, and we're working on that currently. But it's a very new industry, and it's a fast-growing industry. And of course, we have to find the right standard for that. And then another topic is the passport. So I also talked with another gentleman this morning who is a global citizen, as most of us are at Henley & Partners. We are traveling every week around the world. And when you travel, each time you cross a border, you need to take your passport and show it to a border control official. And this you had to do 100 years ago as well. You also had a passport. And of course, I'm sure many of you asked yourself, is this the future, that we take a passport, show it to somebody, he says, you are Dr. Stefan, okay, you can pass, or you can't pass. So probably also there, we need future technologies, and of course, blockchain could be a technology. But the difficulty is that you have to find a technology that is worldwide accepted for all the governments, and that is secure. And when we talk with the specialists, this is one reason why we organized this panel tonight. Then we come to the conclusion that probably blockchain could be the right system for that. Then when we look at the due diligence, you also said whether blockchain could help on the due diligence side. Then I have to explain you how we do due diligence. So first, the practitioners in the industry, Henley or others, they do their own due diligence. And there are no clear guidelines currently, because the industry is not yet regulated. So every company does the due diligence. We have a very thorough due diligence at Henley & Partners. We use WorldCheck, we use internet checks, etc. The same, more or less, the same kind of due diligence that banks do when they onboard clients. And then, so we do our own due diligence. Then the files go to the government, and they also do their due diligence with their own system. Most of the governments ask external experts, as Thomson Reuters, to develop a background verification report with 30, 40 pages. They go in the countries and check in the countries whether the person who says that is Mr. Smith is really Mr. Smith, whether the courts know this person, whether the person has the companies, is the owner of the companies, and actually has employees. So they verify all the data that the client, that the applicant said in the application forms. And so the governments, they do their own due diligence. And then often, with these investor programs, the applicants, they also have to open a bank account in the new country where they live or in the country where they want to obtain a citizenship. So, in other words, we, the practitioners, we do the first due diligence. The government, they start from scratch again and do another due diligence. And the banks, of course, also do a due diligence. And when you think about that, of the time and cost involved, then, of course, again, one could say perhaps blockchain is a solution that you actually store these due diligence on blockchain, and all the companies who are involved or governments with an application can use it. Of course, only if the applicant, if they agree to that. But there are many solutions, and probably, as I said, on the government side, on the due diligence side, there will be a solution in the future. Then on the application side, and then, as I said, as I explained, also on the passport side to share information between the governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Steffen. Professor Dr. Koshnov, please tell us, what are the responsibilities for global citizens in meeting the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution? And from your perspective, what does good governance mean in an increasingly digitized world?
Those are great questions. Thank you very much. Let me play a futurist here. What we are all talking about, this industry, citizenship, etc., has to do with one status which is abstract in nature. So all of us are assigned a certain citizenship, and then we are greeted by the color of our passport. So in fact, what Dr. Steffen mentions, is this Dr. Steffen? That's not actually the question. Is this the Swiss Dr. Steffen is the question. So ultimately, who we are actually doesn't matter. What matters is what kind of package of rights and duties we have received at birth and then carry throughout our life. And here, the fundamental thing to mention is that, in fact, very different countries give different packages of rights and duties. And in fact, again, the majority of countries actually offer you crap. And this is something that you cannot possibly in any way control. So you get born in the Central African Republic, and of course you get this wonderful package of rights and duties, which by international law, theoretically, sovereign equality of states, is equal to the package of rights and duties of the Swiss, but we all know that this is absurd. So the world is absurd at the core, since states, via citizenship, have prohibited themselves from actually seeing Dr. Steffen behind the Swiss Dr. Steffen. And here, once we have a powerful technology, blockchain, we can actually make a leap from the Swiss to Dr. Steffen. And this, I think, is something where the future lies. Because now it's absolutely obvious what the main function of citizenship is in the world. That main function is the reinforcement of global inequalities. Citizenship is the lock at every door, which is only targeting those who got a bad package at the moment of birth. So, Central African Republic, welcome to this world. It will be a short life. You will not be a great entrepreneur. In the majority of cases, actually, there is no comparison between the kind of life you will get because of your wonderful status, be proud of your country, and the status that Dr. Steffen has gotten. But then some people supersede that. So deploying blockchain in order to police citizenships is one thing. And this is something that will not change anything in the world fundamentally. It will not help anyone who is actually brilliant but happens to be from the Central African Republic. So deploying blockchain at the individual rather than citizenship level could be the solution. So how can we exchange the data between all the states in such a way that someone would be able to greet a Dr. Steffen from the Central African Republic, for instance, as a worthy individual, although the passport that place granted that gentleman actually, by all counts, is absolute crap. So being able to see behind the smoke screens, I think, is the good governance of the future. And without technology, we cannot do it. Because now we cannot possibly trust the Central African Republic recommending us the Dr. Stefan that that's actually a great individual, very rich with great degrees, with wonderful prospects in life. Please welcome that guy. Of course, nobody will listen to that. So blockchain, as I see it, could be used in order to break the main vestige of feudalism, which is now programmed into citizenship. And that vestige of feudalism is that citizenship plays a role of the main insurer of global inequalities, which are distributed at random. So let's see a person behind the citizen.
Prime Minister Brown, we're curious to know, what is the investment migration's impact in the Caribbean and in Antigua and Barbuda in particular? Also, what role do you feel digital technologies have to play in this regard?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and a special good afternoon to the distinguished ladies and gentlemen present here this afternoon. CIPs within the Caribbean would have assisted a number of Caribbean countries, including Antigua and Barbuda, to attract significant investments. In fact, it has allowed us to diversify our country's economy and to raise non-tax revenue in order to fund the socio-economic development of our respective countries. We have found too that we've attracted individuals with skills and individuals who have been able to help us to capitalize on other opportunities. Now, the funding is utilized for many purposes. In fact, we have utilized CIP, or Immigration Investment Funding, to repay debt, to reduce debt, to fund healthcare, to fund pensions. And you know, it was really a godsend for many countries within the Caribbean that had fiscal challenges, especially after the 2008-2009 economic crisis. Many of the countries would have seen a reduction in growth, and today practically all the countries that have these immigration investment programs, they're doing extremely well, growing very fast. In the case of Antigua and Barbuda, we're growing at a rate of about 5.3% annually on average. And we've been able to expand the economy, put people to work, create a lot of opportunities for people, and in essence, improve the living standards of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Now, insofar as the blockchain technology is concerned, and the supporting industries include cryptocurrencies, we are taking a step in Antigua and Barbuda to become an early adopter of the technology. In fact, for the last several months, we have been consulting on the implementation of the necessary legislation and supporting regulations. And within the next 30 days, we would have passed the necessary legislation in order to, let's say, create the legal platform for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Now, our plan is all-encompassing. The whole idea is to use the blockchain technology not only as to deal with cryptocurrencies as a form of payment mechanism, but also to use it within the government to digitize a number of services. And as you know, the blockchain technology is here to stay. It's immutable, and you know, it's also cheaper in terms of the transaction costs, far more efficient. So we are seeking to capitalize on those efficiency gains and to place services to include our CIP services, even buy details of CIP citizens on the blockchain, as well as passports and other IDs, including driver's license. The whole idea is to use the blockchain technology to deal with those services. We also diversified into the medical marijuana space, and we'll be utilizing blockchain technology as well to trace the plants from seed to plant. So we will be literally adopting many aspects of blockchain. Already we accept cryptocurrencies as payment for citizenship. That is one of the areas in which we've been utilizing the technology already. And I'm quite sure that, you know, there'll be some exciting opportunities for local entrepreneurs to get involved in that space, to get involved in software development and other services, so that we can even use the technology to diversify our economy. Because one of the problems that we have within the Caribbean region is that most of the countries are highly dependent on tourism. So there's a need for further economic diversification. And we have the view that the blockchain cryptocurrency technologies will help us to diversify, to create greater entrepreneurship, and at the same time help us to grow revenues and to deal with the various obligations of the government and to incentivize investments.
Professor Scicluna, my next question is to you. Please tell us, how can governments harness the digital revolution to foster development? And what does good governance look like in an increasingly globalized world with its ever-changing challenges and opportunities?
Fine, thank you. I'd like to start with the governance first. Well, good governance is what stakeholders in a democratic country would expect. The standards could change with time, but most, to have trust, they would require transparency on the operation and also accountability. It's either in the public sector or with the government being as a regulator of the private sector. That's what they expect. That's what governments are for. They didn't make a good job when they went into operations themselves. History shows that. But governments are elected to regulate in the public interest. So they would expect that regulations or laws, there will be protecting the consumer to start with, that he won't be swindled. But there are many other stakeholders, could be shareholders and a myriad of different stakeholders. They need to be protected. But we also, what we also have in mind is that the good governance can now be extended in other areas as well. I mean, take taxation. Taxation or corporate taxation, in the past, we made a big distinction, at least that's how we used to teach our students. There was a big distinction between tax evasion, which was wrong, illegal, and so on, hiding, and tax avoidance, which was a legal way how you can minimize your tax exposure. Not anymore. Now tax avoidance is put with tax evasion as wrong, and it is a very gray line of what companies can or cannot do, or what intermediaries can or cannot advise to minimize one's taxation, because if you fall foul of the OECD BEPS recommendations, and now the EU has two directives, ATAD, Anti-Tax Avoidance Directive 1 and 2, it's becoming now quite controversial of what government should or should not be taxing, and how companies should avoid or at least minimize their tax exposure. However, I also, finally it's a question of reputation. Finally, it's a question of trust. And that's where now we're coming with this innovative, disruptive technology, is where things are put on the head, especially when this, as has been said beforehand, the technology or is not well understood. So there's a lot of suspicion. And that's where Malta came in. Malta is a member of the European Union and also a member of the Eurozone. We use the euro currency. And therefore, we have to abide by a lot of EU directives. But at the same time, we want to be competitive. We don't have natural resources, we don't have oil, and we have to be smart in order to be upfront. And we're managing, because we have the highest growth in the European Union at the moment, the highest fiscal surplus, and that's due to being smart. And therefore, what we have done in the past is that, because we're an island economy, we can excel in good regulation for companies who want to locate in Malta. And in particular, where there is technology of a different sort. And I'm referring here not just financial services, where we have a very important financial center in Malta, but also in iGaming or e-gaming, online gaming. And it was misunderstood. It was unregulated. And Malta was the first to set up an authority and with a regulatory framework. And now it can boast of the biggest cluster of iGaming companies on the island. We've got about 400 companies. And I'm sure that they originate from Sweden and so on. And these are all colleagues of mine, they're governments and ministers, and they want to get them back, but they can't manage because they're happy where they are. It's about a government or a regulator which understands them. And this is how then, and I conclude, how it's bridges to the blockchain and fintech. It's just that the way we have done it in the e-gaming field, we hope we can do it now also in this area. Of course, it's an uncertain, because we realize that big countries, because they are set in their ways, they can't adapt and be flexible and fast enough to change their regulation to understand the new technology. It has happened before, just like even in the private sector, like IBM, being so much set with engineers and so on that it couldn't cope with a desktop computer, let alone an iPad. I still remember ordering a mouse for my IBM. It came out in a big box at the post office with a big thick box explaining how the mouse works, when we know that's a silly thing because now we can do it with just pointing the finger. But the mentality takes time. Malta advantage is to be fast. It can manage to discuss with the industry because the gurus of this world and Binance and OKX and so on, through different reasons, including the IIP, they've come in contact with the government and the regulator, and together they sat down and said, now look, we want to be regulated. We don't want to be cowboys and continue being unregulated, but what sort of regulation would be most suitable? Not a question of heavy or light, but adaptable, relevant, and it can't be the old regulation, because it's completely disruptive. Just like trying to regulate Uber using the same regulations you need for a London cab. You can't. It's a different way. So we sat down, and we were the first to say, we're going to have an authority and a regulatory framework, and therefore, of course, there will be hype and big conferences, 8,000, 9,000 coming from all over the world, and we've got a lot of applications, and we've set the ball rolling. So it's a question of understanding the industry and try to adapt the regulatory framework towards this new and disruptive technology.